Great. So getting started again, welcome to our webinar all about the demand response rules for tech projects in the SMUD service area. We announced the demand response rule changes for SMUD projects last Monday, and we really appreciate the attention that you've all been giving this. And I want to acknowledge also that we know it's an extra busy time for many of you, what with the announcements recently about our first phase of funding moving pretty quickly. And we know that you've been putting in the extra work to stay on top of your projects by getting your claims into IRIS as soon as they're sold. And so especially in that context, thank you again for making the time to be here. You and your customers will benefit from your understanding of these requirements for all of the projects that you're working on selling and scheduling and closing out. So demand response requirements have been in place throughout most of the state, but it was optional for SMUD customers until very recently. I'll start by taking a step back and providing a short overview of the general demand response enrollment requirements, talk a little bit about why it's important and how it benefits your customers, and then the expectations for contractors. Then we'll move into talking about the specific rules for SMUD customers and their demand response program options. As I mentioned, this presentation will be recorded and shared as a resource. We'll email it out to all of the registrants of this webinar and also post it online. And we'll leave time for questions at the end. First, let's talk about what demand response is and why it's a requirement. So what is demand response? Demand response programs reward customers for making small changes in their energy usage, most often to decrease electricity usage during the evening peak hours when the demand is highest. And why do we have this requirement? Well, the state of California, which is providing this incentive funding, is requiring demand response enrollment for customers to help ensure that as new electric appliances are installed, the customers can reduce their electricity consumption during certain times when the electric grid is most strained due to high demand or grid emergencies. Demand response programs call on participants to make slight shifts to when they use electricity to reduce their demand during peak hours or other times that the grid might need some help. For example, this could include really hot days or during other extreme weather events. Many demand response programs use the term events to describe these windows of time when customers are called upon to reduce their electricity usage. And you'll hear us talk about program events in our slides later, so now you'll know what that means. And it's important to recognize that customers can also benefit from demand response enrollment. That's the whole idea. So by participating, they may reduce their energy usage during peak hours and avoid paying the highest costs for electricity if they're on a time of use rate. Plus, they can earn an enrollment bonus and potentially also additional rewards for ongoing participation in the programs. And at the same time, they're also contributing to a cleaner, healthier, and more reliable electricity system. Quick details on what's being asked of customers and contractors for these demand response requirements. So the customer will agree to the requirement by checking a box on the tech program terms and conditions, which they need to sign. The terms and conditions also contain a link and a QR code, which brings the customer to the website that you see a preview here to learn more about demand response, including some frequently asked questions and all of their program options. Customers have the option to enroll in any qualifying demand response program of their choice that's available in their area. For SMUD, there are 3 program choices for residential customers and 1 choice for commercial customers. And we'll talk more about those program choices soon. If the customer does not have an eligible demand response program in their area listed on our program website, then that means the enrollment requirement does not apply to them. This only applies in smaller electric municipal service areas, such as Roseville Electric. I know that some of the attendees today may do projects in that area. Contractors, what is your role? So contractors are encouraged to familiarize themselves with the program options, and you're invited to call out any options when you're working with your customers that you think will be the best fit for them. We expect you to confirm that the customer has enrolled before completing the project. Customers will receive a confirmation email from SMUD when they enroll, so you could even ask to see that. We will be paying out the incentive before we verify that the demand response enrollment happened, because that process can take a little while. But we expect to see the vast majority of your customers ending up enrolled. It's really important to see high success with demand response enrollment because it is a state priority and will increase the likelihood of future additional funding for heat pump water heaters. And not to mention, demand response has an important role in paving the way for more electrification with minimizing strain on the grid. So we'll reach out to you if we see that your customers' enrollment rates are lower than average, and we'll talk about how you can improve that, and we'll expect cooperation if it comes to that point. But I know I'm preaching to the choir since all of you put in the effort to be here today. Oh, and the QR code on this slide will take you to a landing page where you can click one button, the demand response button, to get to this demand response website. Again, it's the same one that's linked from the customer terms and conditions. So currently there are program options for customers of PG&E, SCE, SDG&E, and SMUD. And customers and contractors will find the full list of options on our demand response program website. These images are just a small snapshot of the options and the information available in those tables. There's a few different types of demand response programs. Some will text or email customers or send them an app notification to reduce electricity usage. These programs are often called whole home or behavioral programs because it's up to the customer to choose how they want to lower their electricity usage. Other programs will actually connect to a water heater or another technology such as a smart thermostat and communicate automatically with the equipment so that customers don't have to actively do anything during an event to save energy. And even when appliances are connected, customers always have the option to adjust their equipment settings or unenroll or opt out, though the expectation for this program is that the customers are remaining enrolled for 3 years. All of the SMUD demand response program options do actively connect directly with the technologies. And I just wanted to quickly point out that we do have a flyer that you could print out and provide to your customers. It doesn't talk about the specific demand response program choices, but it gives an overview of what demand response is and the time of use rates and why those requirements are connected to this heat pump water heater incentive. And that flyer is available on the page that we linked here. It's the incentive resources page. All right, so let's get into the specifics for SMUD customers. These requirements were all shared out with you in a lot more detail in an email last Monday. But just to recap, these are the requirements that now apply for any projects where the customer signed the terms and conditions on or after February 1st. So the customer must be signing the updated version of the terms and conditions. This updated version collects their SMUD account number, and that helps us follow up with the SMUD team to confirm their demand response enrollment. And the customers must also, like we are just talking about, enroll in a demand response program and be on a time of use rate. Almost all SMUD contractors or customers, about 99% are already on a time of use rate. And then some might already be in a demand response program. And if they are, that means they've met the requirement and they don't have to do anything else. Customers who don't have a program option, that's about 15% of customers we would estimate, or are unwilling to enroll in a demand response program, can still receive the SMUD heat pump water heater incentive, but cannot receive the TEC heat pump water heater incentive. We'll need you to make sure you're providing us with the correct account number. It should match the one that the customer terms and conditions has, and to provide that to us in IRIS on the claim form. Okay, the rest of that has already been covered. And then quickly, just some details on how you fill out the claim form. for the terms and conditions signed February 1st or after, you must choose yes to the question, did the customer enroll in a demand response program or guarantee they would? And just a reminder, we will be checking this on the back end with SMUD, and we need to see that most, if not all, of your customers are following through. For the next question, which demand response program did the customer enroll in? You need to actually select the correct SMUD program that the customer is enrolling or enrolled in. The account number is collected higher up on the claim form. And just a reminder, just don't apply for the tech heat pump water heater incentives if the customer did not enroll in demand response. We will have to reject claims if the answer to the demand response enrollment question is no. Okay, time to learn more about the program options for your customers. And just a reminder that many of the details that we'll be covering are also included in the program options table on the Tech Demand Response website, which I showed in earlier slides. Excuse me. A quick note that the customer can only be enrolled in one of these programs that we're about to cover. And like I mentioned, there's also a chance that your customer's already enrolled in one of these programs that we're about to talk about, or they could even be enrolled in a demand response program that's still active, but no longer accepting new enrollments. An example of that is a program called Peak Core. So if they're enrolled in Peak Core or other demand response programs, they have already met the enrollment requirement. Reach out to us if you think your customer might be in a qualifying demand response program already, but are unsure. And the slides that I'm about to share provide some helpful program overviews, but we really do encourage you to visit the program websites and share those with customers. Those websites have a lot of clear information and helpful messaging about the benefits and the program details, and the links are on each of the slides. So we'll dive into it. First is Peak Conserve. This is an air conditioner cycling program. It uses on-off switches, also referred to as cycling devices. This is a great option for customers, especially those without smart thermostats and or without Wi-Fi. When a customer enrolls, SMUD will visit to install a cycling device for free on the central air conditioner that helps shift some of the energy usage out of the hours when the demand is highest. Those hours are referred to as conservation events. Conservation events only happen between June through September, with 15 events maximum. Customers will receive notifications when an event is going to happen. During an event, the device will turn the AC on and off. This on and off is what we mean by cycling. And it'll turn the AC off for 20 minutes at a time, up to 40 minutes per hour. This can happen between 1 to 4 hours, and most often just for 2 hours, and the fan will keep running the whole time. Customers can opt out of the event if they want by calling or emailing SMUD at least 15 minutes before the event starts, and the phone number and emails are on the website linked here. In terms of eligibility, the customers must have a central air conditioner, in other words, ducted. About 15% of homes do not have central AC. The customers also cannot be on a medical equipment discount rate. That's about 3% of customers, and they cannot be a renter. So customers do get some incentives for participating. First, they get a $50 enrollment incentive once the cycling device is installed. And then they can earn ongoing bonuses at the end of each season for their participation. And how the customer enrolls, it's via an online portal, pretty simple and quick. They mostly just need their address and account number. Okay. Next up, we have My Energy Optimizer Partner Thermostats, or MEO Partner. This is also an AC program, but it's using smart thermostats, specifically Ecobee, Emerson Sensi, and Google Nest, and Honeywell is expected to be coming soon. Customers without one of these thermostats can purchase one at a discount, up to $100 off through the SMUD Energy Store. Customers can have central AC or an electric heat pump HVAC system. And customers do have to have a solid Wi-Fi connection for this one. So the way it works is that SMUD will connect to the thermostat and adjust it by just a few days during peak events, and then they'll also pre-cool before the peak events. They only happen, again, between June through September, same as peak conserve, with 15 events maximum. Customers will receive notifications. Customers can also opt out of the peak events with this program as well. They can do that at any time just by adjusting their thermostat. And the AC will automatically kick back in if the home temperature raises by more than a few degrees. In terms of eligibility, it's similar. So homes without central AC or an electric heat pump would not be eligible. No customers on medical equipment discount rate, and customers who don't have Wi-Fi. That should be about less than 10% of customers who don't have the solid Wi-Fi connection. Similarly, you get enrollment incentive and ongoing incentives for participation. And in terms of how to enroll, if the customer already has an eligible smart thermostat, they can visit the My Energy Optimizer site linked there to check their eligibility and sign up. And if they don't yet have a smart thermostat, they can head to the SMUD Energy store and purchase an eligible thermostat and automatically enroll it at checkout. The contractor can help by installing a smart thermostat if a new one is being purchased and helping the customer connect to the program either through the thermostat app or through the SMUD website. And with both of these AC programs, the goal is really that the customer is not feeling discomfort. So that's the whole point behind these short events, up to 4 hours, but often shorter, really only adjusting the thermostat by a few degrees. And with the AC cycling, it's only turning off for 20 minutes at a time. Okay, and then the last residential program option is actually for customers who have a battery system. So this will be less common. About 3 to 5% of SMUD customers will have or will soon have batteries. So this program is really innovative. All year round, SMUD communicates directly with the battery to send energy back to the grid when needed to help relieve strain on the electrical system. And participants are paid to do this connection it's Swell Energy's virtual power plant control system. And that's how they alter the times that the Tesla battery charges and discharges. I won't spend too much time on this program because, like I mentioned, it's only about 3 to 5% of customers that would be eligible. But as you can see, there are some really lucrative incentives if your customer does have a battery. Chances are, if they have a battery, they might actually already be enrolled in this program. But if they aren't, it's a really great opportunity. And just one thing to point out is it's an innovative program that's an important part of SMUD's plan to eliminate greenhouse gases from its power supply by 2030. And customers can rest assured that they'll still have the backup power they need if an outage occurs. Okay, so there is one commercial program option. This program is actually, it's called Power Direct, and it's intended for large commercial customers, really. For example, 300 kW of peak demand, but can consider smaller customers on a case-to-case basis. We expect it's unlikely that a tech heat pump water heater project would be a good fit for this program, but we wanted to share it in case. So if you think you have a project that might be a good fit, direct them to SMUD, specifically the site on this slide, to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. What this really means is it's most likely that commercial projects, for the most part, are ineligible in SMUD territory. But again, if you think you have a project that might qualify, just reach out. So we are at the end of the slides. I know that was quick. I wanted to make sure to save time for questions. So I see that y'all have been putting some questions in the feature. Thank you. And Jennifer, appreciate you being here from the SMUD team to answer people's questions. I wanted to share, someone asked a question for peak conserve eligibility. Does it matter how new or old the customer's HVAC system is? And Jennifer responded that SMUD has learned that systems cannot be more than approximately 15 years old. The installation appointments are scheduled pretty quickly and eligibility can be determined in a matter of days. So in terms of contractor expectations, it's great if you can help your customer kind of figure out, is your specific HVAC system one that would qualify? And if you can wait and see what SMUD's determination is on eligibility, that's wonderful. And if the system isn't eligible, then the tech incentive isn't for them, but you can still get the SMUD heat pump water heater incentive. But we also recognize that projects can move fast, especially for emergency replacements, for example. So we're not going to, take issue if you work with a customer to enroll in Peak Conserve and you confirm that their initial web form enrollment went through, but then as it turns out, you found out later after you did the installation and sold the job that the HVAC system was not eligible. We understand that in some cases, once in a while, that type of situation will come up, but we do ask you to do your best due diligence that you can in those program timelines. And again, SMUD estimates that about 85% of customers do have central HVAC and should be eligible. So we wouldn't expect that too many customers end up being unable to enroll. So we'll be looking for those high percentages. So there's a question, is there a way to find out if the customer is not eligible before signing the contract? So if they have a really old HVAC system, that would be a good clue in that they're potentially not eligible. And it sounds like, Jen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, really the best way to do this is for the customer to go ahead and apply via the portal. And then SMUD will be able to check on the HVAC system specifics. And that's a great point that if the customer is on a medical equipment discount rate, that's about 3% of customers, then they're not eligible. So if you can take a look at their bill or ask them what rate they're on and make sure they're not on that one, that is a great thing to do.
I would also chime in and add that, the majority of our programs do require time of day or time of use rates. So that's really helpful to know, but we can, verify eligibility very quickly if the customer makes contact. And then for those interested more in the Peak Conserve program and how old the AC is, we're trying to implement a way for customers to submit pictures of their AC at the time of enrollment so that we can more quickly get them their eligibility. But I think we're happy to take pictures as well if you're looking for like a really quick indication of whether they're going to be able to participate or not. I think that's amenable as well. So happy to help however we can.
That's really helpful, Jennifer. Thank you. Good to know. Is there any specific way that you would suggest pictures are sent in?
Yeah, for specifically for Peak Conserve, there is on the Peak Conserve landing page an email address to which you can submit a picture. I believe it's peakconserve@smud.org. Yeah, peakconserve@smud.org. You can send your picture of, well, if the customer can send their picture and some identifying information so we can look up their account, make sure they're loaded into our IntelliSource platform, then they'll easily be able to enroll themselves and most likely, while you're there in their home, giving them an estimate for their project. It's pretty quick. So, we're happy to provide preliminary eligibility with those pictures. I would also just mirror what Emily delivered moments ago, which is if a customer has a smart thermostat or is planning on getting a smart thermostat, we'd prefer them to join that program. But it's really whatever the customer is more interested in participating is also works. So.
That's all very valuable information. Thank you. So there's a question from Erica, how to connect A.O. Smith heat pump water heater directly. Right now, there are no programs in SMUD territory that control A.O. Smith heat pump water heaters. Vasil, would you be able to maybe just restate your question about how about water heaters in terms of incentives? Um, in the meantime, during time of use, does the heat pump water heater automatically switch to vacation mode? So I think Lisa, you're likely asking about the time of use rate schedule setup that is a requirement of the tech heat pump water heater incentives. So um, the manufacturer logic for what happens during the peak hours on the time of use rate is different from manufacturer to manufacturer, but none of them include going into vacation mode. So if you were seeing something that felt weird or you think might not be working correctly, please go ahead and reach out directly to tech.contractor and we can help troubleshoot what might be happening with that time of use rate setup. So, Christopher's question, what protections are in place for contractors, since the tech rebate can only come back to contractors if a client signs the terms and conditions that they will sign up on a DR program and they decide not to after the installation is complete? Great question. So that is why we ask that the contractors are actively working with the customer to make sure that they do go ahead and sign up, or at least, take those first steps to fill out the online enrollment form and submit that before you complete the job and offer them their incentive, because um, you know, there's less less pull that you have with the customer if they've already received those incentives in the heat pump water heater. So it's great to ask them kind of, can you confirm that you've done this, or even can you share your enrollment confirmation, and just make sure that they're doing that before you finish. We realize that there might be circumstances that's difficult to do that. If they're having trouble finding their account number, or some edge case scenario is happening, or even for Conserve, for example, if they go ahead and sign up and it turns out their HVAC system looks like it would have been eligible, but it's not, and they weren't able to enroll. We understand it might be hard to have a perfect record of your customers enrolling. And so as long as, you're kind of meeting the average enrollments that we're seeing across contractors, you're going to be okay. If we see that contractors are really struggling and having lower rates than other contractors, that's when we'll reach out to you and figure out what's going on, and maybe here's some tips that you try, and work with you to raise those enrollment rates. I'll go back up to Vasil's question. How about water heaters in terms of incentives? So our incentive levels are not based on kind of KW or KWH or usage. They're just flat rates. You can see more about our incentive levels on the contractor knowledge base, but for market rate customers, they start at 3,100 for tank sizes less than 55 gallons, and it's 3,800 for tank sizes 55 gallons or greater. Maybe Jennifer, is Ivan's question, or actually no, this is more about time of use or time of day, so I think I can take this one. So how to connect Ream or Rude to TOU or time of day. You worked with the customer to set up his rate plan. That should be correct, Ivan. It really is setting up the rate plan. If you go to our contractor knowledge base article, it's called something about installation requirements and time of use setup instructions. You can see a 2-minute video instructional video for how to do this with the Ream units, but yeah, you basically type in the zip code or their utility and select the rate. I forget if Ream specifically has the SMUD time of day rate, but if not, you can choose a similar rate kind of with the hours, the peak hours between 5 to 8, and select that and send us a screenshot. Well, not send it, upload a screenshot confirming that to the claim form. Jennifer, I'll let you go ahead and answer a question.
Thank you. I just answered one of them, which was, let me find it now. Do you guys have any literature or marketing flyer stating the sign up for contractors can use? That's a great question. SMUD is working on developing a one-pager right now. I have a vision. I hope it turns out as my vision, but it would make it really easy. You can take this piece of paper when you're making the sell, and a customer will be able to hover their phone over a QR code and be sent to the enrollment landing page and enroll right there when you're in the home selling the heat pump water heater. That's my vision. So I hope that that's what's delivered, but we are working on that one pager, and we're happy to kind of share and make it as easy as possible. Let me go back to open questions here. Customers who are ineligible to enroll in SMUD demands program or unwilling, how can a contractor check that? I think it's really on the customer to do it. I mean, they have to be interested in enrolling, and they have to, transparently communicate their intention to you. We're happy to answer their calls, and we're happy to answer and provide information. I believe if, the only question that you could ask that would give you a yes or no answer in that moment is a simple, are you on SMUD's medical rate? You could kind of deem them ineligible at that point in time. But other than that, it requires more digging in, and apologies that it's just not easier, but it is what it is. Let's see. I have another question. Okay, sorry if it sounds good. Oh, customer have to apply for DR program for their HVAC if they only is the question. I'm guessing the question is why do they have to apply for an HVAC DR program if they're installing and incentivizing a heat pump water heater? Is that?
Yeah, that's how I would understand it. I'm happy to just talk about that logic a little bit, and then Jennifer, if you have anything else, feel free to jump in. But it's a great question. So the really high incentives that the CPUC is providing, the state is providing for these heat pump water heaters are because this helps get the foot in the door for customers to enroll in a program which helps them reduce their electricity usage when it matters most. And since these customers are getting a new electric appliance and they're adding electricity to the grid, the vast majority are replacing a gas water heater. All that matters is that they are reducing their energy usage when the grid needs it most. It doesn't matter where that energy reduction comes from. Is it coming from the water heating, or is it coming from HVAC or something else? And so that's why we have the demand response requirement, and it doesn't only have to be programs for heat pump water heaters. And just based on the programs that are out there, generally, there are not that many demand response programs in the state for water heaters right now. It's a newer thing, up and coming, but there are a lot of demand response programs for HVAC and thermostats and other technologies. And what SMUD has in their territory right now are those 3 programs that we talked about. Would you want to add anything to that, Jennifer? No pressure.
Not at all. That was great.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Great questions, everyone. The other thing about how to check eligibility before, as Jennifer mentioned, the checking if they're on the medical rate is a great one, and just checking if they have central AC, a central AC or electric heat pump.
I would also add, I mentioned in the chat that systems or equipment that's more than 15 years old, we're also seeing that sometimes equipment that is newer or less than 5 years old may also not be compatible with the program's load control switch technology. So in either cases, a picture is kind of required to confirm eligibility quickly before rolling trucks for installation. So, and if you go to our program landing page for Peak Conserve, there's all of this information there as well. I know it's information overload, so we're here to support.
Yeah, I'll just emphasize, like I said earlier, really encourage you all to visit those websites. The SMUD did a really great job of designing their websites and providing clear and helpful information. Okay, we'll give it another minute or so. Okay, we have a new question. Does this program affect Roseville Electric customers? Yeah, so good question. I tried to kind of explain this toward the beginning of the webinar, but if there is not a demand response program listed for a specific utility, then the requirement does not apply to the customers of those utilities. So Roseville Electric is a good example. No demand response program options, so no enrollment required. And on the claim form, you can actually just answer no to the did they enroll in demand response question. And make sure to enter in who their electric utility is. Okay, well, I know everyone is busy, so we're happy to give you a little bit of time back in your days, unless any more questions come up or unless any of my teammates want to say anything else. Pause. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's a lot of you on this webinar, and your customers are going to be better served by you understanding this information very well. So thank you again, and I hope you all have the nice remainder of your days.
Thank you so much for coordinating this, Emily.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Jennifer and Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, everyone.